What would you do if your whole life was shaped, not by love or destiny, but by someone else's shame? When I turned 20, my father's embarrassment over being poor turned me into a bargaining tool. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I became a deal, a transaction. He handed me off to a man nearly 45, a wealthy stranger the whole town whispered about. I prepared myself for misery. For a life where I'd be treated like something bought, not someone loved. But on our wedding night, I didn't find cruelty. I found a secret he had buried for decades. A secret even more painful than the arrangement my father forced upon me. And somehow, ironically, that secret set both of us free. This story is for anyone who feels trapped, defined by someone else's expectations, or thinks they don't deserve love. If you're listening from anywhere in this big old world, drop a comment and subscribe. Some truths may shake your beliefs, but they still need to be told. And this is mine. Because I know there's someone out there who needs to hear that life can turn around, even in the messiest situations. Before we go further, tell me where you're tuning in from, any corner of America or anywhere else. And if you've ever been through something like this, let us know. We're building a chain of support right here. Your like, comment, or share could be the reason someone chooses to keep going. Alright, let's begin the story that changed everything. I was born in 1946 in a creaky wooden house in Harmony Creek, Tennessee. My father, Walter Hayes, worked the fields for Mr. Harold Vance, and my mother, Clara, sewed clothes to stretch every dollar. We weren't starving, but we were far from comfortable. She's going to be a fighter, the midwife said when she first held me. If only she knew how slowly that fire would dim. I grew up surrounded by 5 older brothers, James, Michael, Robert, Daniel, and Thomas. People often assume brothers protect their little sister. Not mine. Back then, sons were raised for the world and daughters were raised for the kitchen. They feared my father too. Everybody did. I wasn't the princess of the house. I was the prisoner. Don't you play outside, my father barked the moment I showed interest in running after my brothers. A girl belongs indoors, helping her mama. I was barely 5 when I heard that for the first time. While my brothers explored the woods, raced around the fields, and played baseball in the square, I stayed inside, sewing, learning recipes, and doing chores meant to prepare me for the role everyone expected me to fill. A proper woman, a future wife, a keeper of the home. My father obsessed over one thing more than anything. My purity. My daughter will marry clean, he'd say. Or she won't marry at all. When I turned 10, the rules got even harder. Tilly, he said, you go nowhere alone. Never. I remember being around 12 the day I begged my mother to let me play Ring Around the Rosie with the girls in town. Mama looked at me with sadness but shook her head. Your father won't allow it. Why? Because girls who play in the street get lost. Lost. How does a 12-year-old get lost circling around a rhyme? But in those days, you didn't question your father. I don't want her too happy, I once overheard him say. A happy girl becomes a flirt. Better she stay quiet and safe. So I learned to live small. While my brothers lived, I served. While they grew, I shrank. While they roamed free, I stayed behind those 4 wooden walls. School was the only time I escaped, but even that ended at 14. The other girls whispered about crushes, notes passed in class, boys giving shy smiles in church. I listened silently. I had nothing to share. When I finished school, my father declared, "Now you focus on housework. A man wants a woman who knows her duties." I didn't even know what being a wife meant, but they were already molding me for it. The suitors I never had. At 15, I asked Mama why Daddy wouldn't let me speak to anyone. "He wants to protect you, baby," she said, though her eyes told another story. Protect me from what? Every boy was danger, every smile, evil, every hello, sin. At 16, I wondered if I'd die untouched, unseen, unknown. When God wills it, Mama would say. When your father arranges it. Arranges it. Not chooses. Not loves. Arranges. I wasn't a daughter. I was a negotiation. But there was one bright spot. Mrs. Gable, the town librarian. She slipped books into my hands when my father wasn't looking. Dickens. Austen. Women with thoughts. Women who lived. Your body may be trapped, she whispered once. But your mind is yours. Don't lose that fire. I had no idea how much her words would matter. Becoming 20, and becoming a bargain. By the time I turned 20 in 1966, everyone in town whispered about me. She's still single. Something must be wrong. Her father's too strict. Every suitor who approached was shut down. Too rich. Too poor. Too young. Too old. Too near. Too far. No one was ever right for Walter Hayes. I knew how to cook, clean, sew, chase after kids. But I didn't know how to live. When Caleb Johnson, a kind boy from church, tried to talk to me for the first time, I barely got a word out before my father's voice cut the air like a whip. "Tilly, get over here." And the whole town saw. And they whispered. And I shrank even smaller. And then came hunger. And with hunger, came my fate. When money got tight, when the pantry got thin, when desperation sank its claws into my father, he finally decided someone was suitable. But not a young man. Not a man I liked. Not a man with dreams. No, a wealthy man almost twice my age. A man the whole town whispered about. A man I had never spoken to, not even once. And that's where my story truly begins. Because on the night I married him, expecting misery, I discovered something that changed both of our lives forever. A secret deeper than shame. A truth heavier than money. A wound older than my father's pride. And somehow, that secret became our salvation. My father didn't say a word the whole way home. His boots stomped against the dirt path like war drums, and I followed behind him like a shadow terrified of its own existence. When we got inside the house, he shut the door with such force that the wood rattled. "Tilly," he said, turning toward me slowly, "I told you what happens when you let boys get near you." "Daddy," I whispered, trembling. He only wanted to say a word. I didn't. Silence. That one word froze the air. My mother stood near the stove, hands twisted in her apron, looking from him to me like she wished she had the power to pull me out of that moment. "You bring shame on this house when you let a young man approach you," my father continued. People watch. They talk. Talk. That was his greatest fear, the voices of others. Not my happiness. Not my future. Just the town's gossip. I lowered my head. I didn't ask him to come to me. He just. It doesn't matter. You should have walked away before he took a single step. My mother tried to speak. Walter, the girl did walk away. Not fast enough, he barked. I felt my insides twist. It didn't matter what I did, it was never enough. That night, I lay awake listening to the familiar sounds of the old house, but they felt different. More final. Like the last creak before something collapses. And then, a new sound. My father's voice. Low, urgent, whispering to my mother. I got up quietly and crept closer to their door. We can't keep going like this, Clara, he said. The crops won't last. The debts are piling. Winter's coming early this year. My stomach dropped. Debt. Hard times. Every time those words entered a home, something, or someone, was sacrificed. We will manage, my mother whispered. But even her voice sounded thin, like she didn't believe her own words. No, my father said. There's a way, a solution. Someone offered something today. My breath caught. Someone offered. What? Who? My mother asked, her voice rising with fear. Harlan Beckett, he replied. The name sucked the air out of the room. Mr. Beckett, the wealthy rancher, 50-something, reclusive. Rumors always swirled around him. Widows whispered. Men avoided his eyes. Kids ran past his property like it was cursed. What did he want? My mother asked, her voice barely holding itself together. He wants the girl, my father answered. My knees nearly buckled. The girl. Not Matilda. Not Tilly. Just the girl. My mother gasped. Walter. She's 20. She doesn't know a thing about marriage. Not with a man that age. Not with. He's willing to pay. My father interrupted. Enough to clear everything. Enough to start over. Paid. Bought. Sold. My heart cracked clean in half. Walter. My mother cried softly. She's our daughter. Not livestock. For God's sake, Clara, he snapped, we're drowning. You think anyone else will marry her now? She's 20 and untouched. If we wait longer, no one will want her. This is the only good offer we'll get. I covered my mouth to stop myself from crying out. So that was it. Not love. Not destiny. Not choice. Just a transaction. My mother sobbed. Please don't do this. But my father's voice was cold as winter steel. It's done. I gave him my word today. The world spun. My breath vanished. I wasn't just being controlled anymore. I was being traded. I leaned forward a little, lowering my voice like I was letting y'all in on something I'd kept locked away for decades. Now listen, that night. The night everything flipped on its head. I still hear it sometimes. The room went quiet. You could almost feel the air tighten. See, after that whole mess, after the lies, the arguments, the break, I tried moving on. Lord knows I tried. But the past don't walk away just because you tell it to. It waits. It circles. And then, one night, it comes knockin'. I tapped my fingers on the armrest, slow and deliberate. It was around midnight. I remember 'cause the old grandfather clock in my hallway struck 12 right before things went sideways. The house was quiet, too quiet. And I kept feeling like someone was watching me. Not in a creepy movie kinda way. No, this was different. Personal. I paused. The audience leaned in. Then I heard footsteps on my porch. Not heavy. Not hurried. Slow. Careful. Like someone didn't want to be caught. At first, I thought it was the wind. But wind don't walk, I said with a dry laugh. So I went to the window, moved the curtain just a tiny inch, and there he was. My breath tightened remembering it. The same man, the same mistake, standin' under my porch light like a ghost that forgot it was supposed to stay gone. My voice shook. Only this time, he wasn't smilin' that charming smile he used to break my whole life apart. No, his eyes were wide, scared, dartin' around like he was runnin' from somethin' that wasn't far behind. I swallowed. And the worst part, he kept whisperin' my name. Like the night itself was makin' him say it. I leaned back. And something in me, something stupid and soft, wanted to open the door. The audience gasped. But before I could take a single step, there was a knock behind me. I didn't turn around at first. I couldn't. My heart near stopped. There ain't supposed to be nobody else in that house. Just me, and memories I didn't invite. The knock came again. Slow. Heavy. Boom. 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 And the moment I turned around, the porch went silent. I snapped my fingers. Just like that. Footsteps gone. Voice gone. Porch empty. It was like he vanished right out of the air. I stared into the crowd, lowering my voice. But whoever knocked on the inside, they didn't disappear. I took a breath. That was the moment I realized the past doesn't always knock from the outside. Sometimes, it finds a way in. I let out a long, shaky breath before I continued, my hands clasped together like I was holding something breakable. Y'all ever felt a silence so loud, it feels like it's shouting at you? I asked the crowd. Heads nodded. That was my house that night. After the knock from inside, everything just froze. The air felt thick, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I looked down, remembering every detail. I took one step toward the hallway, and the floorboard creaked louder than it ever had in its whole life. And for a moment, I swear I heard someone breathe behind me. The audience stiffened, but when I turned, nothing. Just shadows. Shadows that felt wrong. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart was pounding so hard, I could have sworn it echoed. And then, the knock came again. Boom, boom, boom. Only this time, I whispered, it came from the old guest room. A room I hadn't opened in years. A room connected to the one person who had broken me. I walked down that hallway real slow. Felt like each step took a whole year off my life. And when I reached the guest room door, I noticed something that near made my knees buckle. I paused, letting their imaginations burn. The door was already cracked open. A few people in the audience gasped. That room was always locked. I kept the key in a drawer nobody touches. And yet, there it was. Open. Like someone had been waiting. I swallowed. When I pushed it open, the air inside was cold. Not winter cold. Grave cold. The room was dim, lit only by the moonlight sneakin' through the curtains. And there he was. I exhaled slowly. The man from my porch. The man from my past. Standin' in the corner like he'd been there for hours, or years. My voice cracked. But he didn't look angry. He looked empty. Like he wasn't even all the way human anymore. I mimicked his voice. Soft, broken, trembling. Greater than. I didn't know where else to go. He stepped forward, hands shaken, eyes darting like he was seeing something behind me, something I couldn't see. The crowd leaned forward. I asked him, "What do you want from me now?" And he whispered, "Greater than." It followed me. I paused for a long moment. Now, listen, when a grown man, the same man who once thought he knew everything, stands there terrified like a child, you don't ignore that. I leaned in. He said ever since he walked out on me, he kept hearing knocks. Kept seeing shadows. Kept feeling watched. He said every mistake he made, every lie, every betrayal, started showing up at his door. First in dreams, then in real life. I swallowed. And the reason he came to me. He said the thing that followed him started whispering my name. I let the silence hang. Before I could say another word, the temperature dropped again. Not a breeze. Not AC. Something else. My voice sank low. The hallway light flickered. The walls creaked. And a shadow, a tall, thin, crooked shadow, slid across the floor behind him. The audience tensed. I didn't scream. I didn't move. Neither did he. It was like our souls froze. Then, boom, another knock. But from inside the room. I ain't lying. That knock came from the closet. I gripped the air like it was the closet handle. He whispered, "It's here." And then the door, that old wooden closet door, started to shake. Not violently. Slowly. Like whatever was inside was carving its way out. Boom. 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 With each hit, the lights flickered harder. I touched my chest. My heart felt like it wanted to escape my body. And then, the closet door opened a crack. Enough for me to see, not a face. Not a body. But darkness. A darkness that moved. I steadied my voice. That's when he grabbed my hand. First time he'd touched me in decades. He whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's here because I broke you." I blinked back tears. And somehow, deep inside, I knew he was right. That shadow wasn't after him. It wasn't after revenge. I swallowed hard. It was after the pain we never dealt with. The grief we never buried. The ghosts we created, together. The crowd was silent. And before I could breathe, the shadow lunged. I snapped my fingers. The lights burst. The room went pitch black. He screamed my name. I felt his grip disappear, and when the light flickered back, he was gone. Not dead. Not unconscious. Gone. Vanished like he was never there. I let the moment settle. And the only thing left in that room was the sound of soft knocking. Not angry. Not violent. I closed my eyes. Sad. Like a goodbye. Dash dash dash. I locked that room again. Haven't opened it since, I said softly. But sometimes, late at night, when the house gets too quiet, I tap the table. Boom. 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 I hear that same gentle knock. Not asking to come out. Not threatening me. I opened my eyes slowly. Just reminding me that when love breaks, something always stays behind. A long pause. That shadow. That night. That man I once loved. I took a deep breath. They taught me something I want y'all to remember. I pointed at the audience. The past don't haunt you because it's evil. It haunts you because it's unfinished. The crowd didn't move. And as long as there are regrets you ain't faced, or goodbyes you never said, there'll always be a knock somewhere in your life. I leaned back, voice soft but heavy. So if you hear it, don't run. Don't hide. Don't ignore it. I folded my hands. Just open the door, before it opens itself. Then I gave a sad, knowing smile. And that, my loves, is the truth I carried for a lifetime.